Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 477, and today we're doing battle with Yuumi Jinx. And so the Yuumi Jinx deck we're playing, this is an extension of the Yuumi Teemo deck that has really ramped up in popularity over the course of the past week or so. And so in my experimentation with the Teemo deck, what I really discovered was a couple of things. Number one, Teemo is not really that important. Teemo is, granted, stronger than a lot of the elusives we're playing today. He does come down cheap. He's elusive. He gets to attack for that point of damage, and then the Puff Caps damage probably gets you another 2 or 3 points throughout the course of the game. But at the end of the day, he's ultimately not necessary. The games that feel really strong with Teemo Yuumi don't necessarily involve Teemo as much as they involve Yuumi coming down and making one exceptionally strong elusive, and then having access to 2 elusives so that you can get maximum value out of the heroic refrains, essentially turning the heroic refrain into a 4 damage burn spell. And so with that in mind, I felt pretty okay with moving away from playing Teemo and adding in something that the Teemo deck really lacks, which is some high-powered late game in Jinx. And so what I found way too frequently and way too often with the Teemo version of the deck is you have these draws that don't involve Yuumi. You get like 3 2-power elusives on the board, your opponent interacts with one of them, and then you get to like turn 6 of the game and your opponent's at 12, right? And there's just absolutely no way that you can come in and recover from that game. And so what we've really looked to do with this version of the deck is a couple of things. Number one, we added Jinx into the deck. Jinx gives an insurmountable amount of late game into these decks, with the Super Mega Death Rockets giving you 3 damage of burn every turn, but then also allowing you to draw an extra card every turn to hopefully allow you to churn through more of your burn spells. But the fun and wild addition today that we're bringing is going to be the addition of Mecha Pulverizer. And so the absolute easiest games that we had in terms of winning are these games to where you just put Yuumi down on turn 3. And so you have some elusive on the board, don't care what it is, you put Yuumi on it, and then you're off to the races. It's usually too big for the opponent's burn spells to interact with, and then that unit is now able to deal 8 or 12 damage on its own. But one of the downsides to playing Yuumi is she is a champion, right? And so we can't attach 2 Yuumis to the board at the same time, and that's where the Mecha Pulverizer comes in. It doesn't give us that growing amount of stats that you get from Yuumi over the course of the turns of the game, but it does give you a pretty healthy stat line, and it does also kind of count as Yuumi's number 4 and 5, and it does allow us to have 2 of these equipments on the board. And so if we're going to cycle back to that main concept that we had earlier, to where all we really want is 2 elusives on the board so that we can get that additional bonus out of the heroic refrain. That is kind of an extension here as well with the Mecha Pulverizer, in that I don't really want to be generating these boards to where I have 5 really bad elusives. I want to be generating these boards to where I have 2 really good ones. And so outside of that, the unit selection with this deck is pretty straightforward. We have all of the good elusives in the deck, except we have 1 copy of Daring Poro still making the mix within here. And then in place of Bird, we are using Yordle Squires. My problem with Bird the Bell Ringer that you typically see through the common versions of Teemo Yuumi is that it comes on the board and just doesn't do anything, right? He comes down, gives something in your hand +1/+1, and then he blocks and he's done with the day. But the Yordle Squire gives us a lot more value, a lot more action for the price. It still comes down and just blocks and hopefully trades, but putting that spear onto an elusive unit can be very relevant, and then it also gives us some discard fodder for our blowbacks, rummages, and electro harpoons. And so that's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. But before the battles begin, you know what we got to do? We got to come out and pay that pay-to-win price. And I think there was an elusive in here. Where are you at, Kelp Maidens? There we go. Like, I'm... the Kelp Maidens really needed the premium treatment. It's one of these cards to where I keep trying to cut it from the deck, but I'm like, man, it does so much sometimes in terms of generating those pranks and then being able to discard the pranks. Or you can find a lot of these spots to where you steal a card with skip and then you prank your opponent's hand, and then the tempo gain from that is pretty huge. And so it's like, friend, I don't really want you, but I do want you. It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in terms of the Kelp Maidens. But now that it's premium, It's just damned if you do, right? I'm not entirely certain how that phrasing would work out in the proper form, but just having that premium Kelp Maidens most assuredly means success from here on out. So, all right, into battle up against dragons in game number 1. Let's see what we can do. And so we got these starts that we're kind of looking for, right? We have an elusive that we can play in the first couple of turns of the game, but the big answer, the big thing we picked up here is Yuumi. Now, it is going to be a little bit more awkward up against Shyvana Aurelion Sol in the sense that their interactivity isn't common for what we normally see in this format, right? As we're looking towards decks like Janna that can either deal 2 points or 3 points of damage, or if we look towards things like the Warden of the Tribes deck to where they can maybe deal like 3 off of a early game challenger. Like this deck should have the potential to say like put a big dragon on the board and then just load it up, right? They can deliver challengers all over the place. And so we'll have to see how that goes. Knowing opponent has Judgment in hand, I'm not going to take it, but we're going to have to give it a little bit of respect on these future turns. We're going to avoid attacking with the likes of our Yordle Squires and our Jinxes if that means keeping all of our elusives from getting killed. So here I'll load up the Yuumi. You know, I think it should be safe on the Daring Poro. Like if he's going to play Shyvana next turn and then hit Shyvana with a Confront, she'll be a 4/5 and we should be able to protect with the Heroic Refrain. And so I don't feel like we need to stack up on the skip to gain that extra point of health. Just pass. All right, so far no Confront, that's good. I'm just going to add the Acorn and take the 3 bank. I don't want to lose our unit to like a single combat or a Dragon Strike or whatever it's called now. And so Heroic Refrain looking pretty good. All right, so what are we doing on this next turn? Are we just going to open attack? Now, it's a little scary with him being able to play a unit and then single combat as well. Like, we have so much damage tied into this Daring Poro, but, I mean, he's only going to be able to play a 2-drop, right? I think it should be safe. Otherwise, it's going to have to be something weird like a Pale Cascade onto the Cosmic Youngling and stuff. I'm not going to worry about it. Get that nonsense out of here. We're going to put more dudes on the board. Get these Sting officers ready to party. Now, there is a touch of argument here in the sense that maybe we should have dropped the Octo Adventurer. He would be in a spot to where, you know, you can maybe rip Challenger off one of the opponent's units or something and get something there. But we did get the extra point of damage playing the Sting officer here. And so I can see an argument either way. Right, so as we stand on this board, we would have been able to put the Quicksand onto the Screeching Dragon and then keep him from making a challenger this turn. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we should still be safe, right? Oh, he goes for Skip. I forgot what Skip even has. All right, he's got a Cosmic Youngling underneath. Sure thing. So we should be safe with our onboard attack next turn, right? If he wants to make another one of these nonsense plays to where he hushes an elusive and blocks and then plays Judgment, he's not going to have the mana to do all of that. And so I feel pretty safe rolling into this next turn. Almost snaked away that Cosmic Youngling with the traps. Would have been nice. Let's see what we can do. Again, he should be pretty starved on mana. We're not worried about Judgment. I think we're going to get the chance to get the full attack in this turn. The premium Kelp Maidens coming through in the clutch, am I right? That's what we needed him for. That's what we needed him for. But should be interesting. If he takes all of this damage and falls to 2, we'll be getting the double pranks in hand and can maybe take him down with a blowback. I think we want to be blowbacking this turn anyways, so he doesn't get the heal off the Cosmic Youngling next turn. And then we'll see what turns up. I think the real question here is, do we want to prank? Like, I don't care about the judgment. The Cosmic AoE, that costs 9 mana, right? I think we're safe. I'm gonna discard the pranks, hang on to the Explorer's thing in case he plays, can't play the Scourge, but if he has a giant interactive dude or something, we still have something here. Ooh, the Jinx. She's unfortunately a little short of lethal, but should still be a pretty good drop for the turn. He's got to do more than just the White Flame, right? This is sketchy. I don't know. This is one of these places where I'm not super sure, right? We didn't get to drop the Jinx now. It's like, so how susceptible are we to a Judgment and a Hush? It could be a thing. Oh. We've got the lethal through that anyways. Right, he's at 6. If he's gonna spend the 8 mana on Judgment, 3 mana on Hush, we can play Jinx, send the get excited to hand, and then play the Death Rocket after that. All right. GG, well played. On to the next battle. Oof. Feels good. Too bad we didn't get to Mecha Pulverizer, you know? Oh, man. Too bad. But I think I'm pretty spot on with the analysis in terms of the Mecha Pulverizer. These games with Yuumi are just so much easier than any of these games where you don't draw Yuumi. Why not just play more copies of her? Now, she's not nearly as strong. If we think back to... If we think back to kind of like the Drissoth style, I think Drissoth might have been the one that kind of popularized the Targon Elusives deck that was using the hand buff stuff along with Yuumi. Maybe it was slightly after he kind of like broke into the scene with the Bilgewater style of Elusives. I don't entirely remember, but you know, you don't get that big time reusability like you get out of Yuumi there, but still pretty good. Still pretty good amount. All right, let's see if we can zing him. Right, up against Samira Janna, this should be a pretty healthy unit here. getting our 4/7 elusive on the board and ready to battle. Like, what's Samira supposed to do about this thing? I don't know. I don't make up the rules. I just make up the big attacks. Opponent's out here checking to see if he's in the right queue. He says, "Am I battling up against FTP Bust in Wood 2?" Oh, this is gonna be a full priced stun, isn't it? A pirouette coming in. Oh, that's juicy. He says, "What do I do? Bust coming at me hard." Here it is. Here's the pirouette. Oh, a Howling Gale. All right. Interesting. I'm not sure what the angle is here with that. It's got to be some kind of Samira hook, right? We have a blowback to take her down. But he doesn't even have the flare anymore. How much do we even have to care about this? I don't think we have to care very much. Alright, so we'll take the removal spell. That feels good. Sunken Temple should just be irrelevant this game. Howling Gale, that makes sense. But, much like that last turn, the real power that we're looking to get out of these cards, right, so we get to reuse the Mecha Pulverizer. So we lost our dude. Opponent had to make a massive investment in that guy, and then we still get to hang on to 3 power of attacky stuff here. I don't know, man. That's pretty cool if you ask me. Now this is where it's getting a little dicey. We haven't had a ton of card generation here. I feel like we need to open with the Mecha Pulverizer. Like, this is a must-do. I don't want Skip to just get killed and then him get a fresh removal spell back in hand, and it's pretty tough to deal with a 4-attack unit. I think we want to be discarding the blowback here, and then we can look to rummage away the card we generate off of the Octo Adventurer. Feels like we're about to just run out of stuff to do as we play our big friend here. We play Skip, or we played Acorn, right? I ultimately worry that once we drop this Octo Adventurer, that we're just not going to be able to play any more cards in this game. And so I guess that is a touch of argument just to hang on to the blowback, right? Being able to just get in that last little nugget of damage. But at the end of the day, this still feels pretty safe. And here, this is one of these spots I've really fallen in love with the Octo Adventure. It's like we played it a bit in our Janna deck, but now it's just another source of just, it's like so hard to actually kill this thing, and it's such a delightful target to just slap all of these attack boosting kind of cards onto. Makes me quite happy. So what are you doing? 3 damage? Okay. So he's out of mana at this point. Like, what's the realistic chance he gets to kill our Skip next turn? He's played 2... Has he played 2 Whirlwinds at this point? So it should be pretty tough to have that extra damage. And now we've picked up Jinx. So we should be safe either way here, right? I was trying to like deduce if we need to preemptively Heroic Refrain so that we would be able to get the Jinx on board, and we don't. We should be able to Jinx and blowback and play 1 more card, and then just be safe from there. Right, did I add this up right? 3, 4, 5, 9 plus 1. Okay, we're safe, we're good. The mathematics can be hard to do. Anyone anyone familiar with the channel knows how hard. Oh fuck, we got that card coming back into hand. Fuck. God damn it. We should still be close to okay. But oh man. Right, we just have to pop off a Death Rocket and we'll be fine. Shit. I forgot the Pulverizer was coming back to hand. There's no way he can deal like 17 next turn, though. Having to deal with what we have on board and attacking for 17 sounds like kind of a tall order. All right, well, regardless of what we draw, now that the Pulverizer's back in hand for the 4th time this game, we know that we'll be able to empty out our hand. Regardless of what we draw, we can just discard it to the thing and be good. Blowback makes it even easier. Whew. Math, am I right? Who needs it? What a joke, sitting around trying to do math problems and stuff. Most certainly not my forte. Why can't I play this? Blowback onto Janna, discard the thing. Okay. Alright, rip. GG. Says, am I in wood too? Bust out here coming at me with the Mecha Pulverizers. But that showcases it exactly right. I mean, in the sense of what I'm trying to go for with this, he had to deal 7 damage to that unit just to get it off of the board. That can't feel good. That can't feel good. So speaking of Drissoth, welcome to the battles. This should be a fairly tough matchup. Again, a lot of these decks I've been bringing over the course of the past few days are things that we're looking to take to the open. You know, the open's coming up here in a couple days from now, and so my plan for the open is just to ban Janna every time, and I've made a lot of kind of decisions in terms of how these decks come together, with the thought and idea that Janna's just going to be banned.
Tough places breed tough people.
It's wild. One of the things that's quite interesting to me, one of the things I think about in my free time, you know, that's as I'm sitting around philosophizing instead of doing math problems and stuff. It's I wonder if the average viewer is closer in skill to me than I am to Drissoth. And kind of what I mean by that, in the space that starts to land, is like I get that we're getting like kind of decent at the game, right? I don't know. I pushed into the top 10 on the ladder for a little while. We're hanging out in the top 100 now. We've top cut some stuff, but it's like I am able to recognize like how bad I am in comparison to Drissoth, and it's like one of those things to where, I don't know, if you think of something like Olympic athletes and like how it's something absurd in terms of like things like the 100-meter dash, is to where it's a matter of like 100ths of a second, and the people that are like top Olympic athletes in comparison to like the top college athletes are just a very like matter of 100ths of seconds in terms of how fast they can run. And like to the common viewer, the common eye, you would never really be able to tell the difference. But like those college athletes, those people that are like top 10 college athletes, know that they have absolutely no shot at participating on the Olympic level, because they just can't hit that like little bit of extra edge. And it's like, that's what gets me kind of curious about these spaces, is like playing against someone like Drissoth, in the sense that it's like I'm kind of able to recognize just like how much better he is than me. Like I know our ladder ranks are fairly close, but at the end of the day, he's just so much better than me. It's it's kind of wild. But doesn't mean we can't take a game off him, right? We're out here. LOL. That's the other kind of thing that's interesting with card gaming, though, right? If I had to play a mirror match against Drissoth and say like a best of 100, he's gonna win. Like the chances of me overcoming Drissoth in a mirror match best of 100 are astronomically low, but I can still take games off of him. And so, like, if we're playing a best of one, okay. I'll take a shot. I'll definitely take a shot on a best of one as opposed to a best of 100 when it comes to playing against him. But things looking reasonable here, right? We're about to have roughly 6 power of elusives on board. We have roughly 6 power of burn in hand. If we can just connect with all of our elusive units at the moment for the 5-piece nugget here, that 7 damage of burn should be enough to end the game. So we'll see. See how that pieces together. Alright. Getting a lot of damage on board. The thing with these units is they can't block elusives, right? And they aren't burn spells. And so as long as we're staying around, 7, I feel pretty safe. But we do need to be ending this game pretty quickly here. And so we'll see what turns up on this next hand. I'm curious if we shouldn't just be playing the spear now, so we don't lose out on that point of mana. It's close. Did you get the burn spells? So far, no dice. What else we got? Something coming through. Looks like the burn spells have been found. That's unfortunate. I'd really appreciate this prank coming into hand. Alright, can't do anything about that. So where do we stand here? We got 2, 4, 7? I don't think we have a shot. If we look to double blowback, that's only going to be 6. We can get up to around 8 or so. All right, GG. We'll just say top decked it, right? Top deck those burn spells. Good job, bro. But that's interesting with that deck. You know, that's been my thing with Janna throughout the entirety of this set. Is like he just spewed out his hand, fell down to like 2 cards, and then the next turn it's like he has the natural draw, the 4 draws off of the bird, so he's at 5 and he slipstreamed twice, so he got to draw 9 cards on the turn. it's kind of obnoxious, and so it's like in days of past, you used to get into spots like that and be like, okay, well I feel kind of fine here, right? Opponent has 2 cards in hand, but they shouldn't really be able to interact with what I have going on. And now they're just like, LOL, watch this. Coming at you. All right, well, a bit of an awkward start here. We didn't land on a spell. We took the full mulligan because our hand was kind of trash. We did find the Yuumi. Don't have a spell here, and so I'm kind of leaning towards starting with the Squire. The Squire is good if the opponent doesn't have Omen Hawk. Well, I guess Lonely Poro's on the table as well. So we're going to miss out on the point of damage here. A little unfortunate, but not the end of the world.
I smell a rat.
All right, it's a bird. Sting Officer removed. We won't take any of these blocks. We're never going to actually deal combat damage while attacking. We're going to do our combat damage through these ground-based units. We're going to deal our combat damage with these elusives. And so, oh my god. It's a pain in the dick. So we don't need to get super big in terms of ground-based combat damage. We'll save these Yordle Squires for blocks later in the game. This has just been like a disaster mode of a game. If we pass, does he just pass as well? Yeah, that would have been horrible. Like the worst possible thing would have just been a. Phew, okay. Still not going to block these 1/1s. We can just take all of this damage here. If you really wanted to be getting this Fleet Feather Tracker off of the board, we could have loaded up a Yordle Squire with a spear. I'm just not super interested in that. We're going to need to just slam some dudes on the board here and then see if we can't attack through. I don't really care how he chooses to interact with the Badger Bear. I guess the kind of preferred way would be for him to block these Kelp Maidens. I don't really want the pranks at this point, but we do get that kind of reusable damage out of the Acorn if he wants to prevent the big damage here. Says, big damage. I've made my choice. So what do you got? I don't particularly care about the bird, and I guess giving the bird neg to attack and vulnerable is just useless, and so we were really looking for some plus cost to cards in hand things. We're definitely not getting Jinx down on this board. But we may be able to follow up a little bit after combat. He didn't play a Sarion. Interesting. I'm curious. It's like he adds the bird, so he has to have another unit. Or maybe he's just saving Harsh Winds mana. So weird. Okay. Like, why wouldn't you want to play Gnar and get the stick? Alright, we'll take it. What else are you supposed to say? It's like, yeah, I'll take it. I guess. So what do we got? Need a discard kind of card. Heroic Refrain. Who's ready to watch this go all in? Guess we should prank first. +1 cost on Warden of the Tribes. That's the game breaker right there, am I right? Now, how bad can this go? This is a tough spot, right? I want to go all in with the Heroic Refrain. We've seen 2 of his cards. He only has this one in hand we aren't familiar with. I think we just go for it. If he has the Harsh Winds, I guess that's a thing. Oh shit! I didn't see Dickhead over here pick up the elusive. That was completely off my radar. I completely intended on just hitting Gnar, so he can't overwhelm us next turn. Uh-oh. How bad is this? He's still got birds and stuff out here? We probably just punted this one away. Oops. The Exalted Poro coming through, man. And he just drew another Warden of the Tribes? Okay. Well, GG. But I will say with that game, that is one of the matchups we're looking to play, and that's how you lose to Warden of the Tribes. Like, literally everything that game went wrong. Between him having the early game shut down on our 1-drop, and then having the Challenger, and then having the Badger Bear, then having another Challenger, then having another Challenger, and then having the answer to our elusive unit right at the end. Like, literally everything that game went wrong. And we were very in that game. I know it doesn't. It's one of those things that's like if you're a new to a card gamer kind of thing, and you look at our board and we have these like 2 tiny ass elusive units, and you look at your opponent's board, they have like 60 power. Like it doesn't really display how close we were to winning that game, and so that's why I'm fairly okay with that matchup turning up. Is in the sense that. That game went very well for our opponent. All right, though. Next battle up against Janna Volibear. We want to be on curve with this, but this is not a particularly strong Acorn hand. Like, if we're getting 4 draws in total before we attack, I think we're safe to get rid of 2 cards here. It's like... I don't want to hold on to the Rummage just for the sake of making it cheaper later. And then that pickup with Blowback was fine. But right, we got the 2 cards off our mulligan, 1 card for the turn. We'll draw a card next turn. We should be picking up a spell at some point throughout that sequence. Now, Premium Kelp Maiden's coming at you. This is an interesting card. It took me a while to realize there's the name Mary Ann, right? Like Mary, but it's always like Mary dash Ann, like A-N-N or Mary space Ann. It's never like Mary Ann all pushed together one word. And it probably took me a week and a half, 2 weeks into the set that realized that this was actually Mary Ann, but with an M as in Mark instead of an N as in Nancy. And it's just Mariam to me now. Never going to change, and so... welcome to being in Bust's vernacular. It's just never going to change. All right, how are we going to handle this one, though? I'm leaning towards getting rid of the Octo Adventurer and then just shooting down the Scholarly Pioneer. We need to just get him off of board. There is some argument to let him hook something and then just harpoon. Right, so he gets the hook, we harpoon away the prank, and then follow up with an Acorn, but I think we just want to empty out our hand as fast as we can. Right, I mean, we've got this Jinx. Why not just use our highest power card?
crumbling.
Why not? Am I right? Why not? All right, big damage time. Here they come, 6 damage acorns to the nugget. And then it's gonna be time. It's gonna be time for the death rockets to roll through. Feels good. I think we're in good shape here. How do we go about this? Well, I guess the acorns are too small. Like, I was thinking to myself, it's like, do we want to harpoon the Mariam? Because then we get to just clean up the board with the death rockets, and that's not going to be the case. That's not going to happen. Now I have to be curious if we were too aggressive. Like, what do we do if he just passes the turn here, right? We have to still play Jinx, right? Jinx has to come on board, but it's such a scary spot for her now. I think we took that way too aggressively. It just feels like another one of those spots to where if we'd waited just a little bit longer, like he's going to attack and try and take down an acorn, and then we can let that attack happen and be fine. But like again, it's like if we like play the Electro Harpoon and he's like pass, and then we don't get to play Jinx, right? Because playing Jinx is fucking scary at that point. She dies to literally everything in this guy's deck, and so. That's tough. Shit. Now this is the downside to the deck we're playing. It can be a little on the challenging side of things to actually clear out our hand. We aren't playing a ton of fast speed discard, and so Jinx is pretty vulnerable here. We would have ideally been able to put a unit on the board and then protect her with a burn spell, but it doesn't look like it's going to be necessary. And then if you note the order we played our units, I wanted to be able to burst out the spear and then put the unit on board so we could do it all in one action. I didn't want to wait on a second action to get our to get our Jinx online. All right, opponents dropping GGs. Apparently enough. Feels good. On to the next one. You can see, like, I feel like that game was a perfect example in the sense that if we're playing just the Teemo Yuumi version, like, that game is dead. We lose that game, right? We didn't draw Yuumi, so our units are all very susceptible to removal. And then, like, at that point where we had Jinx on the board, we could have played Teemo a little earlier and he would have dealt, like, 3 damage. I just don't see any way you actually win that game if you don't have the Jinx in your deck. And that's what I ultimately... really makes me really glad to have her in here. As you get to that spot in the late game, it's like, what do you want? Do you want to start just playing augmented experimenters or the 2/2 elusive for 4 like that? I don't know. That doesn't strike me as the answer to how do you win a late game when your opponent has played a removal spell, right? Now here, we're on the odds. I'm just going to take the full mulligan against Annie Samira. I'd like to find 1-drops, and I'd like to find Mystic Shots. We got pretty close to everything here. Didn't find an answer to a turn 2 Samira, but found some 1-drops and stuff. I think we'll be leading with the Yordle Squire. Maybe, I guess we'll have to see our first draw. Like, if we pick up a Mystic Shot, or if we pick up an Electro Harpoon, then I'm a little bit more... okay with adding Acorn, but I don't want to have to discard a real card just because he plays Samira next turn. All right. And then what's going on with this deck? Is it some kind of Tybalack deck? Or is this like actually a aggro-y kind of thing? This is like this is typically like a Lord Broadmane style of deck, right? To where, you know, they play Annie. No, he's got Father Fury. That's that's no longer factual. He is doing something much more on the aggressive end of the spectrum. I think. I don't know. Maybe my confidence is too high in what's actually happening here.
Now our celebration can truly begin.
It's like, I wonder. Here's my thing now. It's like all of these units are so good at dying to Jinx. Like, my immediate like thought was, okay, well, I'm just going to Electro Harpoon a unit, attack with 2. He's going to trade for 1. We're going to deal like 2 points of damage. But like, I have to feel like literally every unit in his deck just dies to Jinx, and I think we can work with that. And so it's like I'm starting to lean more towards like, instead of discarding the tiny spear, let's just discard this expensive combat trick, and then we'll just try and get on a Jinx plan from here. And so I think that's where I want to take this. Interesting. I'm still not entirely certain what's happening, but I think our angle there is probably correct. Now we are going to struggle on this next turn to actually empty out our hand. So we'll see.
Let's see how you handle this.
Now I'm a little worried with this. I'm wondering if we played our units in the wrong order. Like, I picked up a shield because I definitely want to be able to block these Father Furies, but taking this 4 damage feels like it's going to be very painful. Alright, so yeah, there's not going to be any way that we get to flip the Jinx on this turn. Like, even if we pick up Rummage, Jinx isn't going to flip, but I think we still just want to play her and then just start going for next turn. So let's add Acorn first. And then I'm looking to just play Jinx. I'll Tiny Shield the Jinx and see if we can't develop from there. He's only got 2 cards in hand. It should be fairly tough for him to take her down. This is going to be like, LOL, it's a Disintegrate. I don't know if I like this spear either. It's like, as we have the Wildfire under Skip, and we have to get, maybe have to get Skip in combat next turn. I guess he's like doing better at this point in the sense that the Wildfire in hand is going to deal 3 and Father Fury is not going to deal that much. Well, we were at least accurate at this stage of the game, right? This Jinx is going to come in and blow some stuff up. She's going to come out here and nuke his entire team. That's a thing, I guess. That can't be good. Can't be good. I don't know, we got 11 damage on board and he doesn't have any units at the moment, so we got a shot. We got a chance to finish this one off.
Now it's a party. Ready, Hammer?
Giving chase.
Oh, part of the plan. I just made up.
All right, here comes the squad.
Where you going?
Ripped him. Woof. Woof. Hope you all were squeezing them cheeks at home. That one was close. That one was close.
We blew them all up.
GG. All right. We're at about the 45-minute mark. Let's get one more game in, and we'll call it a day. Whew, not a bad set of battles. Been close. Just need some more Mecha Pulverizers and we'll be good. Think to that last game, right? What does Teemo do in that game? Like it's just that's one of the things. Like I do recognize that Teemo has some power in the sense that he does a lot more damage than he looks like at first glance, and then you do occasionally have some of those games to where your opponent's like, oh shit, like he's actually just gonna flip, right? They can't let Teemo flip, but. I don't think those come around too often. But here, let's take a full mulligan. We don't have any of the cards we really want. Like, having a turn 2 skip does not excite me in terms of being the aggro in this match. And so, this turn 2 skip looks a lot better. We can maybe do something with him, but we would ideally find a 1-dropper as some way to generate a card along the way. And a Jinx. So we'll be able to get this Jinx online pretty quick. And then our hand doesn't do anything otherwise, right? And so we'll definitely be looking to getting her on board. Now, opponent picked up a challenger, a little challenger in the Poro, or a big challenger in the Dark and Aegis. I think we want to take the Aegis here. Like, it should take him a fair amount of work to make the Affectionate Poro relevant. To whereas the Aegis comes down and just goes, LOL, I can kill Jinx. So we'll at least make him put in the work with the Affectionate Poro if it wants to do something. Now this is where I'm not entirely certain on our game plan. This is like the key decision in the game. We've picked up the Octo Adventurer, which I don't really want its ability, right? I'm kind of wanting to just discard my hand as fast as we can to Jinx, but like I think if we're thinking about this realistically, we're not going to get this Jinx on board until like turn 6. And so I think this Octo Adventurer is going to be hitting the board, and I don't want to discard it. I'm leaning towards just discarding Electro Harpoon. We can still do a fair amount of discarding with Rummage, and I think this is ultimately just going to be safer in the sense that we might realistically want to just play the Quicksand, right? The Explorer's Blunder, and so we'll take it like that. But getting pulverized, bro. Mecha style. Yordle, Yordle. As I'm sure what's his name? Rumble likes to say. He just runs around saying Yordle, Yordle like he's a fucking Pokemon. Alright, but taking the Quicksand, we'll see if he wants to say hook the skip and then play a +3 health card. We're pretty safe if he wants to do that. We have the Mystic Shot to survive. Let's get him skip. And Yuumi. I think I can get behind that. I do like still having this mana for the Explorer's Blunder behind. The thing though is like if we want to use if we want to use our Jinx next turn, we need to pick up something like very cheap, right? We're gonna have 8 mana, Jinx is 4, Rummage is 2, Death Rocket is 1, and so we would need a 1-drop that doesn't generate a card. Just not super easy to do. I'm gonna go ahead and attack. The Yuumi edition is kind of whatever. He's gonna have the trick. The thing I'm looking at here is our ability to get the Badger down to 1, and then 2 turns from now we should be able to hit it with a Death Rocket. And so that didn't quite come together, but that was the angle I was taking with our thought there. We can't lose skip. We can't have this card just come right back into our hand. I'm looking to discard Yuumi and discard the Octo Adventurer because those are just the most expensive things we have. But This is such a struggle. Maybe we should have Explorers blundered on that previous turn. I didn't stop to think it through in terms of our skip. I was just thinking how magical this how magical this Death Rocket was going to be from Jinx. So let's pivot. Let's maybe let that happen, and then we can look to blow back onto the Badger Bear. I think we're still going to be fairly short in terms of damage this game, but if this goes right, we might be able to turn it around. Fucking A. Alright. Alright. I don't know now. That's gonna be a pretty tough recovery. Pick up the refreshments. Just going to be the cheapest thing we can play. It's like we got to get the Jinx on board. We got the Jarl back now. All right, GG. That's tough. That's a mountain of combat tricks to run into. But man, that's like it gets me worried. As again, this is like a deck to where I'm, ideally going to be playing it up against a lot of the Warden of the Tribes decks, and it's like. If we'd been paying like a little bit more attention and protected our unit there, would we still have been able to win that game? And it's like that's tough. Like all the combat tricks aside, I don't know. And so it's like, how much do you have to worry about running into the Badger Bears and all the challengers and everything? Because we're really not looking to interact with anyone, right? That's the big game plan and idea with this deck is it's going to be very non-interactive and deal the damage with the elusives and stuff, and then burn you out at the end. But once you start playing like 3 health challengers and stuff, we start to run into some issues. But on the kind of like flip side of the coin is that this deck does have a ton of game against a lot of the third decks of the meta, in the sense that it's quite good against all of the Wildfire decks. It's quite good against Jax Ornn. It's quite good against just basically the big stat-heavy features. And these matchups against the Warden of the Tribes deck, to where if they aren't drawing their Badger Bears, then we're completely fine, right? Those games didn't even really come down to the opponent having access to the challengers as much as they drew Badger Bears every game, and they typically only play 2 copies. And so, that's where the strength of the other deck can really come in. But it has me a little worried. But I think I'm still pretty confident with this deck. But nonetheless, I feel like the additions of the Mecha Pulverizers were very good. I think all of our analysis with this kind of thing is pretty spot on, right? In the sense that Teemo is replaceable. Jinx gives you so much late game power, and then the Mecha Pulverizer does have that opportunity to function as Yuumi's number 4 and 5. And it, while it seems kind of memey, it does serve a very real purpose in this deck. And so, good stuff, good set of games. I had fun. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bustin' Me. Thank you for being here.